Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'd like to thank you all for tuning in to the show. Got my day ones with me, Darnell and Tyler. I'm Trey, and we are coming your way with the 23rd edition of the Don't Kill the Messengers podcast. Before we get into the NBA Finals, we're first about to start off with UFC. They got pay-per-view coming on this Saturday for UFC 199. Just looking at the fight card, Darnell, what are your thoughts on
that? It's a good fight card. I mean, I do wish two of the bigger fights on the card didn't have to be changed due to injuries and extracurricular activity, but still looks to be a good card from top to bottom on the main card at least. Got two title fights and some other just interesting matchups that'll be exciting down the card.
All right, first we'll start off with Cole Miller and Alex Caceres, also Bruce Leroy. Before we get into this actual fight, BJ Penn, he was supposed to fight Cole Miller. What were your thoughts on the whole BJ Penn situation concerning the IV?
I mean, I'm not going to go as far as calling him like a PED user or anything like that, though that's where the question arises. BJ was suspended because of use of an IV, which was recently banned in the UFC after they joined up with USADA, the United States Athletic Doping Agency. That was one of the recommendations they made for safety precaution, and use of an IV can be used as a masking agent if you are taking PEDs. I tend not to think that's the issue with BJ. I think he was probably using it more for a recuperation type deal from heavy training, since BJ Penn is not really known for training too hard. Probably they've started working on him since he's working with Jackson, where it's probably some of the hardest training he's done in his life, so he probably needed something to get fluids back. But in doing that, he probably unknowingly broke a rule in using that IV, which he did self-admit.
Yeah. I can agree with that, especially with the whole BJ Penn training situation. Sometimes I'll look at him fight in the ring. He doesn't look like he's all the way into it. Sometimes just feel like just recently how he's just been on and off fighting with his career. It's kind of like he's just doing it for a paycheck in a kind of way, because sometimes you just wouldn't look like his younger self in the ring. You'd just be focused and everything. Look like you train hard and everything. But for the last few years, I don't know, it just kind of looks like he hasn't really truly been dedicated to fighting in the ring. So I really think with the whole Greg Jackson situation, he was probably just using IV. Wasn't trying to use it to cheat with the whole PEDs or anything like that. Probably was just going through some hard training, since Greg Jackson is one of the best in the business. So I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure he was like, he's always enjoyed fighting. He's enjoyed getting in there for a fight, but BJ's never been the type that...
The training part.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's always been his Achilles heel, for as naturally talented as he is. He's been known to gas out, and later in age, which, I mean, he's not super old, but as much tread as he's lost off the tires, he's been fighting since he was 18.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's now the age is catching up, that he doesn't have just that natural talent over everybody anymore. He's not a young man anymore. So it comes down to actually working hard and keeping that gas tank up so you can be smarter in the ring. And I think that's what kept BJ from being like thought of as the greatest of all time, which he had the talent to be.
Yeah, for sure. All right, now we'll get to the Cole Miller and Alex Caceres fight. What do you expect out of this fight?
I think it'll be an interesting fight. It'll still be exciting. Alex Caceres has made a lot of growth since being on The Ultimate Fighter. The novelty of him coming out in the yellow Bruce Lee jumpsuit wore off and he actually started focusing on becoming a actual mixed martial artist and trying to go in and show that his growth, and he's done that. Cole Miller is a very good veteran fighter. He can beat you on the feet or on the ground. He's one of those with a killer instinct. If he smells blood, he's gonna attack. So I'm interested in seeing this fight. I do think Cole Miller wins it. I thought he would beat BJ as well. So I'm looking for probably a second or third round stoppage. After he finds that weakness and attacks it.
Okay. So you think TKO?
I mean, with Cole Miller, is usually he gets you stunned and gets you to the ground and takes you out there. So I'm figuring some kind of choke probably.
Okay, submission. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he averages about 2 a fight, so we could definitely see that. So definitely. Yeah, I'm going to go with Cole, too. I just think, just with his experience, he's fought great talent in the ring. I think he'll be able to pull that one off as well. So, speaking of experience, our next fight that we're going to talk about is Dan Henderson versus Hector Lombard. How do you see that one going?
There's going to be some bombs thrown in this fight. We have Dan Henderson. He's been struggling as of late. I believe he got TKO'd in his last fight. But he's trying to come back and make. I think this is the last fight on his current contract, but it's an interesting matchup. Hector Lombard is, kind of a genetic freak for himself, known for crushing people himself with his hands. So I do see it probably staying on the feet a lot. I don't see many ways for Henderson to win unless he can land that right hand, which has become known as the H-bomb. But as long as Hector he gets in and out, circles left instead of right, away from Hendo's power, I see Hector winning this one probably easily.
Okay. You think KO? Is he talking about bombs or?
I do.
Okay.
I do think he probably circles away and levels Dan.
Okay. I agree with that, especially since these two can throw bombs. So definitely see that one coming. Up next, I think this is probably going to be the fight of the night. We have Dominic Cruz versus Uriah Faber. How do you see that one going?
The rubber match. Two guys that really do not like each other. This is the third fight, and this is the trilogy fight for them. Faber won the first fight with a choke back in WEC. Cruz was a undefeated newcomer coming in that won in his 21-1 record is from Uriah Faber. Second fight was a close decision by the Dominator. I think this fight is probably going to be closer to that second fight. I just feel like Cruz he's a machine. I mean, coming back off basically a year layoff and doing what he did against TJ Dillashaw, it looked like he had never left with his movement and the way he got in and out. Dominic Cruz is probably one of the more frustrating fighters for an opponent you could deal with just because he never stops moving. Faber's only chance in this one, I think, is him getting it to the ground and doing one of those guillotine chokes that he's known for, or somehow getting Cruz's back. But I think he's going to have a heck of a time getting it to the ground just because, like I said, Cruz's movement is elite. Like I don't see Faber just getting worked, but I do think Cruz probably wins the decision 3 rounds to 2.
Yeah. Okay, 3-2. Okay, so it's going to be a pretty good fight in your book. I agree. I have not really had the opportunity to see Cruz as much as I would like. When he was the champ before Dillashaw got it, it was kind of one of my down years in the UFC. I wasn't really following it as much as I do now, so I wasn't really paying attention to Cruz. But for him, with those injuries that he's had, I believe ACLs, right?
Yep.
Yeah, for him to have those ACLs and that injuries and to come back from all that time off and beat a beast like TJ Dillashaw, that just speaks a lot about just the talent that this guy has. So I'm just going to roll with Dominic Cruz on this one. I think he's going to frustrate Faber and just get the win in there. So
and just to follow up, since the UFC rolled the WEC in, which is the last time Faber had a championship, I believe he's 0-3 in title fights in the UFC. And it just seems like he can't win that big one in the UFC.
Yeah.
Though, Faber's a consummate professional. I love the guy as a fighter. I would like to see him get a UFC fighter because as great as he was when he was in the WEC, he hasn't been able to achieve that goal. It would be nice to see. I just don't see it happening.
Okay. You don't see it just happening Saturday night, or you think he will never get in his
I think this is probably his last title shot if he doesn't get this one. I don't know if he gets back to it.
Yeah. That could be interesting, to see. So that's, I think this is probably going to be the best fight of the night, but we'll see.
I agree.
Okay. Up next, we'll go to Luke Rockhold versus Michael Bisping. How do you see this one going? I think Rockhold's going to get it in on him. So. Yeah,
this is the fight that is, I'm most disappointed in because I was ready to see Rockhold Weidman too, to see if that would be any different. These two have fought before. Rockhold basically had his way with Bisping. Bisping is a game fighter. He never is going to back down from anybody. I salute him for stepping right in and taking his chance to try to get a title. It's been elusive to him. He's always been in that. He's always been one of those outliers, almost to the elite status, but never quite getting there. Whenever he would get his chance against an elite fighter, that's when he would come up short, getting knocked out by Dan Henderson, getting out wrestled by Chael Sonnen. And he probably had the win of his career, his last fight over Anderson Silva, but that's still over Anderson Silva that's on the downside of his career, which I think is the same for Mike.
That's the key thing too. This isn't a 2009, 2010 Bisping. This guy, he has some tread on him as well. So I just don't think he will do as good with Rockhold right now. So
yeah, for sure. And it's just Bisping doesn't have he doesn't have firecrackers for hands. He has really good stand up. He can land good shots, smart shots, but he's one of those types that has to build up volume to get somebody stunned. He doesn't really have much of a wrestling game. So against somebody like Rockhold, who is so good, I can't even give him a puncher's chance. He would have to land something perfectly on the button, which I don't think I've ever seen Bisping do. I've never seen that one shot, go to sleep punch from him. So I don't see a way for him to win this fight.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I just think Rockhold is going to have his way with him. So yeah. Anything else on the pay-per-view?
I can't wait to see it. Even on the undercard, you got some fights that'll probably be interesting and fun to watch. So, if you got your money to tune in for it, buy it on pay-per-view or head out to the local bar if they're showing it. I think this will be a fun card.
Yeah, to the casual, ladies, if you're just hanging out at B-dubs, or fellas, if you're going out there and you're not that much into the UFC, you want to see probably a knockout, look out for Dan Henderson and Hector Lombard. But if you just want to see a good fight, definitely recommend staying till Cruz and Faber get it on. I think that's going to be an awesome fight to see. So should be the good one for sure. All right, up next, we're about to get into the NCAA football real quick. There's some beef between Saban and Harbaugh going on. So what are you guys' thoughts on them and this whole dispute about satellite camps?
When isn't there beef with Jim Harbaugh these days? I think that's the real question for everybody out there.
Harbaugh versus the world.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's his attitude, to be honest. He just doesn't want to take crap from anybody, because when he was at Michigan, Michigan was basically one of the top of the world programs. And it's not, and he wants to bring it back. So I feel like for him, it's more of a mentality and an attitude that he's trying to instill back into the program more than it is trying to make any real point, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, with me, I mean, like, I know I'm biased, so let me just get that out of there. But just, man, Harbaugh can just be a little kid at times.
Yeah, I mean even me being biased towards him, yeah. I can still sit here and say, sometimes he just doesn't need to open his mouth at all.
Yeah, I mean, like, just to give the background and situation for the listeners, if you're not totally up to date of what's going on, Nick Saban was asked about satellite camps. He's not a fan of them, which, I mean, is the reason everybody knows the South. That's where all the recruits are. That's why the SEC has been so dominant over the last decade. And, the northern schools are getting hip to that, so they're trying to get these satellite camps so they can come, get some talk to some of these recruits, see if they can get them up north, play in some cold weather and everything. But, the satellite camps in the South is good for everybody. If you allow other schools in, it's good for everybody but the SEC. So they're probably getting a little butthurt by that. So
yeah, and why it's good for everybody is because you can get multiple schools at one location at one time, where a recruit can talk to 8 or 9, 10 different schools if they choose, instead of having to go specifically to each school and have multiple visits. And basically, they're just trying to save these kids a ton of time.
Yeah, for sure. So Saban got asked for that. He gave his spiel. He actually did have some valid points about it, like worried about it getting too close to rules violations because you got third-party recruiting going, which is expressly against the rules. But then somebody specifically asked about Harbaugh. He did try to couch it and say, I'm not talking directly about him. This is not about Harbaugh, but you get Harbaugh in a situation, the drama is going to start. And I mean, yes, he is trying to put Michigan back on the map. I do think he's rolling with any publicity is good publicity, even if you're talking crap about him. But I mean, I feel like this has always been Harbaugh going back to USC. To Stanford, his issues with USC and Pete Carroll, him and with the 49ers. I mean, his issue with Jim Schwartz, slapping him in the back and all of his random going off on tangents about stuff, screaming and all that deal. And now at Michigan, he's throwing his shots every which way. He's had his little sub tweets and comments about Urban Meyer, about D'Antonio. He's gonna keep the drama rolling. He's a guy that stirs the pot. He's a good coach, but he does like the extracurriculars. He likes to stir the pot. I mean, he sent shots at Michigan when he was at Stanford, talking about people graduating with general ed degrees. So nobody's safe from Jim Harbaugh.
Well, and it's almost one of those things where it's like, if you're not talking about Jim Harbaugh, you better be talking about nobody.
Yeah.
And, for him, and like you said, it's the whole, any publicity is good publicity. But I also think for him, it is an ego that he likes to have. And I understand a lot of people say, you have to have an ego to get to a specific level of success. And, I agree with that. But I also understand that, one, at the end of the day, it's just college football, but it is his job. But two, I also understand. You're right. Yeah, you're right. But I also understand that, this is also just who he is. It's who he's always been.
Yeah.
So it's not like he's putting a show on for people.
No.
He's always been like this.
For sure.
Just like you said, it's his history. It's who he is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't see him changing anytime soon. And like I said, it just keeps things interesting. There's kind of never a dull moment. It's almost like he's like the most interesting man and one of the most interesting men in college football. Yeah. It's what's next, and people wait for what's next.
For sure. I mean, that's That's Jimmy Harbaugh. Wherever he's at, he's going to be loved by his people, but everybody else is like he's a gnat that just keeps flying by your head. You want to slap it down and kill it, but he keeps avoiding them bullets and is just going to keep needling you. So I mean, that's just what it is. His current target now is Nick Saban.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it'll be really interesting too to see, how good of a year Michigan has coming off of a pretty successful year, if you ask me, despite losing the 3 biggest games. And I've mentioned that really ever since the end of the year. But 9-3 was above 10-3 if you want to count the bowl game, above what people thought they would do. But if they have a really good year, and I'm not saying college football playoff or anything, but they could potentially get a matchup with Nick Saban toward the end of the year in a bowl game. So I think that would be really interesting. Ratings would be through the roof. And I bet if neither of the teams make it to the college football playoff, college football will do whatever they can to put them in a bowl game.
Oh, yeah. It might be the highest game. It might get more ratings than the national championship if you put them two against each other.
And if not, it would be super close.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. Anything left on the whole Saban Harbaugh situation?
Well, it's going to keep going.
Yeah.
Now, just Ty, since you're a whole Michigan fan, would you prefer Harbaugh to just shut up and just do his job as a coach to coach his players? Or do you like the whole him talking, getting all this publicity stuff as a fan?
Yeah, for me, I think it's all about the timing of the comments. I don't think you want to see him, go get blown out by Ohio State and then start taking shots at Urban Meyer. It's like, dude, just take the loss. Like, it's fine. Like, it happens. But, you just want to see him avoid petty comments, being very childish. After a loss, you don't want to see him really say anything. You just kind of just stick to what happened in the game, stick to your team. That's fine. But, things like this over a satellite camp where people are already arguing over it. It's like, whatever. It's fine. You get a laugh here and there, and you just kind of be like, oh, Harbaugh, and then you move on with your day. So for me, when talking about satellite camps or something like that, it's not a huge deal. The only time I would love to see him avoid some of the comments is after a loss or even after a win. He might say something kind of stupid, but he's always due for a good quote. So
yeah, that's true for sure.
He always keeps it exciting.
Let me give the good word to him. I mean, like I said, as annoying as I can find him, he's doing him, and that's what makes him the coach that he is. So it's just one of those things you have to take with him. He's going to say stuff that's going to make people not like him, but the guy wins football games, and you got to respect that. I mean, he's already got Michigan back to being on the map, and he's going to continue to do that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, up next, we are about to talk about the NBA. The finals are about to happen Thursday. So before we get into that, let's look at the semifinal games. How did you guys feel about the Toronto versus Cavs series overall?
Go ahead.
Oh, it was more fun than expected. I mean, I thought the Cavs were about to sweep their way into the finals, but at least Toronto gave us a little bit of drama before the Cavs said, okay, what are we allowing to happen here, and slapped them away. But, I mean, there's no surprises in the series at all, but, it was at least decent.
Yeah, obviously the goal for every fan and team is to win the championship, but just a huge shout out to the Six. I believe they got the best fans in the world. They really shocked a lot of people this year. Didn't expect them to have a chance, and they were competing with them. They all played their heart out and left it out on the court. So huge shout out to them. I got a chance to see Bismack Biyombo do his thing, him come out and just unleash the beast on Cavaliers. Give a chance to see some of their weaknesses and just use their team strength to attack that. So just definitely huge shout out to the Six, man. They if they can keep DeMar DeRozan there, and I believe Biyombo his last it's the end of his contract too. If they can keep those two guys there, they can definitely do damage next year as well. So that was just great to see with them and their fans. They had the place really hyped. It was just a joy to watch.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for Cleveland was the fact that Kevin Love found his stride, especially over the last few games. He was starting to do a lot offensively, not so much defensively, but he's never really been known as a defensive player. So, I think we saw a few games offensively out of him where he showed his roundedness that he can be on the offensive end. Down in the post, he was making some good moves, and then he started finding a shooting stroke, and it just made him really, really tough to guard. And if he could bring that to the finals, that'll only, propel Cleveland in that series. But in terms of the series as a whole, kind of like Darnell said, Toronto made it a little interesting there when they tied it up at 2-2. But I don't think anybody was doubting that Cleveland was going to win the series. At that point, it just became, is it going to be 6 or is it going to be 7? And turned out to be 6, and Cleveland just kind of put their foot down and took care of business. So not surprised in any way, shape, or form.
All right. Up next, what were your guys' thoughts on the Golden State OKC series, and how in the hell did OKC be up 3-1 and let that go away?
Oh, I mean, the most dramatic, best series of the playoffs, but yeah, it was because of a meltdown on Oklahoma City's part. I mean, they look like world beaters.
So hold on real quick. Do you think that was more OKC losing it than Golden State rallying up and winning it?
It was some of both.
Okay.
I mean, it always is. But I don't know. That after Game 5, there seemed to be a turning point after OKC just kind of let it just go.
Yeah.
And they did that. Game 6 was kind of a back and forth fight. But after they lost Game 6, I don't know. I just had that feeling. It was like, okay, they're done. They're not winning Game 7.
Yeah, because I think we all assumed that Game 5 was going to be Golden State's going back home. I went ahead and gave them 5 and said if they win 6, it's done. You can't give a 73-win team 2 wins and not expect them to close out the series.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those last 3 games they brought back every question people had about Oklahoma City.
Yeah,
they can't close a game.
Yeah.
Can Durant and Westbrook coexist and win a series? Is Durant really a superstar? Welcome to LeBron James treatment now, Kevin Durant, because you need to get it now.
Yeah. I believe it was after Game 6 when we were all talking. I sent the stat that Oklahoma City had no fourth quarter assists. They scored 7 points in the final 3 minutes or whatever it was. It's like that's in 3 minutes you're probably getting about 6, maybe 7 possessions, would you say? And that means you're scoring on 3 of them. That's not good. Like it's like they had a great game plan for about 40 something minutes of that game. And then with 3-4 minutes to go, they're like, all right, let's start settling. Because one thing I've mentioned, and it's really been frustrating to watch, Golden State, especially games 6 and 7, started getting real hot from 3 again. Notably Klay Thompson in Game 6, who, in my opinion, single-handedly won that game for them. And then Game 7, Curry and Thompson both shot the ball really well. But, it seemed like the game would get late. Golden State would hit a couple threes. And then Oklahoma City would run down the floor and just throw one up real fast. try and answer real fast. It's like, Oklahoma City, that's not how you play basketball.
Yeah.
Yes, you're going to hit the occasional three, but they're not going to go shot for shot with Golden State. No way.
Yeah,
totally agree.
And I just felt like that they were trying to rely on just matching them bucket for bucket. I mean, I think it was game 7 in the second half at some point. TNT showed some stat that Golden State was plus like 85 or something, and probably ended up over plus 90 from the 3-point line on Oklahoma City. I mean, that's devastating.
Yeah, I mean, if there's, I mean, the easiest scouting report in the world is you're gonna get outshot from 3-point range from Golden State.
Yeah.
Plus, do not make it a 3-point shooting contest because you are going to lose that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to find a different way. And yeah, OKC, it seemed like every fourth quarter for the last 3 games, they fell into just, we got to do what they do. We got to try and match it. And it's like, you can't do that. You have one player that usually can hit from wherever on the court. But, I mean, game 5, Durant his jumper was as broken as could be.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Westbrook had a solid game, but he even fell off the map in the fourth quarter there, especially those last 3 minutes. Like Pat was saying, they had like 0 or 1 field goals in the last 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just, it was just some, like I said, total meltdown on their part. But, I mean, Golden State, they made the shots they needed.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, Clay for 3 quarters of game 6, like, he was a one-man wrecking crew, and Steph came and swept up after him in the fourth quarter when he finally got going. And then game 7 in the fourth quarter, just Golden State turned into the Golden State we know and just started hitting from everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I will say there were a couple times in the series I was really surprised with how hard Oklahoma City was fighting. There were a couple times I thought the game was over. Notably, I know game 7 they made that little comeback at the end, and I believe they also did it in game 5. They pulled it within just a couple possessions very late and kept it very entertaining despite losing at the end. But they in my opinion, I think Oklahoma City, despite not making buckets at the end, despite kind of moving away from game plans, never gave up. They fought till the clock hit 0. And, I give them a lot of respect for that. But, at the end of the day, people just care about who wins the series.
Yep.
Yeah, to me, every great champion or team, they have a story. I was looking at this Golden State team. I texted you guys. I sent that text message saying that Golden State was going to end up winning the series, coming back down from 3-1. I was looking at them, and they had went 73-9 in the regular season with ease. Didn't have nothing really to talk about. They were just doing their thing. Then when they get to the playoffs, Steph Curry, he has that injury. Everybody's like, okay, could they possibly lose? And then when he gets back to healthy, they get down 3-1. And it's like, okay, they're finished. This team, they're champions. They got potentially can be champions. They got a story we can talk about now. Just wasn't just some easy little walk through a little breeze. But one thing that caught me off guard a little bit was that game 5 when Oklahoma City found out they were up 3-1. I was a little disappointed in the way that they went with the game. During the end of the game, when they lost, they were all shaking hands and everything like that. Like, it's okay. We have game 6. We have game 7. We could win this. Mm-hmm. One thing when you're playing against a team like Golden State that can get hot just like that, you got to pull out the sword and cut their head off as soon as you get the chance. Game 5, that was their chance. They should have went out there, balled out, and just tried to just slay the dragon, but they couldn't get a finish. You got guys like Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, those guys can get hot in a second. Okay. Then Draymond Green, he's the vocal leader. Okay, game 6, we win game 6, we can end up going back home and then winning in front of our home crowd. So, to me, game 5, when they won game 5, they kind of got their confidence and their groove back. So when game 6 came here, I always when I watch Golden State play, when someone plays them, I always believe that they can come back at any moment when they're down by 5 or so, just at how quick those players on their team can get hot from shooting the ball. So when the fourth quarter came up and Oklahoma City was still up, I was kind of like, okay, well, Clay, Steph, and those guys, they can get hot at any single moment. All it takes is one shot from them, and they can get their groove back and then start to potentially win this game. And boom, it happened. Klay Thompson, he kept those guys in there going. He was just absolutely amazing. Kind of like I said, everybody looks at Steph Curry with his shooting, but don't forget he has another beast playing right beside him at the 2 that can get hot and make just about any shot as well. So Klay kept them in there. Then when the time was coming, when it was tied up, OKC started to get the lead and win the game. Home, they got their confidence back and everything. They were at home. They were in front of their people and everything. So it was just like, we made it back from 2. Let's just get this one and just go win the final. So for me, the whole thing was OKC should have slayed that dragon when they had the chance, because with all those guys playing together, with them getting a win and then how they shoot, it doesn't take that much for those guys to get hot. Usually like an average player, once he gets like 3 or 4 down or something like that, that's when he starts to feel in the zone. All those guys have to do is make one shot and they can be in the zone, because they'll feel confident enough to take it right back behind the 3 and then just switch it right in front of a guy's face. So OKC, instead of that mindset of, okay, well, we lost this when we got game 6. Okay, we lost this game 6, we got game 7. They should have treated game 5 like it was a game 7 for them, because the more confidence they give those guys, the worse it was going to be for them. And we saw that. Golden State just played tremendously, and they came up winning it and going back to the finals.
Yeah, like one thing I kind of noticed, and especially once the series got later on, I felt like Curry and Thompson both were somehow finding a lot of room to shoot the ball. I felt like Oklahoma City was really struggling to hang with them out on the perimeter, and they just get wide open looks. And I was kind of confused, because it's like, if you should know anything on the defensive end, you can forget how to play defense, but you should always basically be right on Curry and Thompson. Now, granted, sometimes they were and they still made their buckets, but that's going to happen. But I bet if you go back and watch the game, you'll need more than 2 hands to find how many shots that Curry and Thompson had without a defender within 3 feet of them.
How much of that do you put on Billy Donovan?
The thing is that's just so hard to say. Mainly because you can tell your players whatever you want. You can tell them, hey, we need to be on them. And then when your player goes out onto the floor, they're kind of on their own at that point. I mean, Billy Donovan's not going to go out there and start playing defense. But as the coach, he has to take some of the responsibility simply just because he's the coach.
Yeah.
But ultimately, those guys on the floor, if they were told, they need to know. And if they weren't told, then that's just a huge mistake.
I mean, they shouldn't even need to be told.
You're right.
Curry and Klay Thompson.
Nobody on their couch in America would give them that much.
Exactly.
Well, I'm just wondering, just like at one point, do you just start ripping in? You call some timeouts and you go, Russell, come here. That is the MVP.
Now,
he can shoot from 40 feet without worrying about it. You pick him up. Whoever you got on Klay, the same. Pick him up.
I completely agree there. But there's one reason I would speak against that, and the only reason would be the fact that I feel Billy Donovan called some very interesting timeouts throughout the series. It would be 3 minutes into the second quarter and they're up 5 and he's calling a timeout. And it seemed like it would come right at a moment when Golden State could be getting momentum. And I was just very intrigued by that, because it's not a necessary timeout. It's not even a timeout that's like, okay, I get it. But I feel like he used that as a time to try and really get something together to prevent a big run. And early in the series, it worked out. But as the series went on, Oklahoma City it just came down to the fourth quarter, basically.
That's for sure. Now, Ty, how did you feel about Draymond Green during the? Because you were saying some stuff about him. Was he still playing kind of dirty in your book?
The quote unquote takedown of Steven Adams in Game 7. I made a joke about, Draymond Green pulling out his best WWE. And I mean, that one to me was a lot harder to distinguish as, oh, that was on purpose. It's like, that's really hard to tell. When two guys are going for a rebound, they're grabbing each other. They're holding on to each other. I completely get that. But all I know is this. If Draymond Green ever finds himself on LeBron James and does anything like that, he'll probably get kicked out without question. Granted, sure. And granted, he has he's almost up to his limit of technicals and flagrants or whatever exactly that is.
Yeah, I think it's text.
I
think he needs like two more or something.
Yeah. So I mean, he's already kind of thin ice there. But yeah, I think we're going to see a repeat of last year where Iguodala gets into the starting lineup because they pulled that out for Game 7.
Yep.
Iguodala is going to be in the starting lineup. He's going to be guarding LeBron. But yeah, I think we're going to see a fair amount of time of Draymond Green guarding LeBron as well. Mainly because I don't know if anybody can hang with LeBron for 4 quarters. Yeah. So my thing is, Draymond Green better keep his cool if he's on LeBron. I don't know if it would get the same kind of treatment if he's on Kevin Love, but definitely LeBron. If he does anything even close to looking intentional on LeBron, I think it'll be a quick flagrant 2 and he'll be done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they'll give him enough chance to have that situation with LeBron. I think LeBron's going to see a steady dose of, like you said, Iggy's going to be on a majority of the time, but I actually think they'll throw Sean Livingston on him a lot too, just because he's such a big guard and long that they'll use him to spell Iggy. I think Draymond's main focus is going to be Kevin Love, which, I mean, that's probably an easier person that outside of defense, just Draymond's mouth might be able to take him out of the series.
True.
Now, do you guys think this was KD's last game in OKC?
I wasn't thinking it after Game 4, but thinking
a loss like that, man, that could just mentally, oh my goodness, to know that you were that close to go to the finals and it just slips away from you like that, that hurts. So. It could very well be. I mean, they had a new system with Donovan coming in, so they could possibly get some more chemistry in and build upon that. But that loss was just, for you to be up 3-1 and lose like that, that's just absolutely unacceptable. So that's just mentally what he's going through right now, man. It's probably hard for him to go to sleep at night knowing that.
Yeah, for sure. I think you can look probably at both options very realistically. He's I think it's very obvious he's going to be testing the market and talking to teams. I think
Philly could be going after him, man. So
I don't think anybody wants to.
I don't see that.
But I think that we're going to see him test the market. I think if he leaves, people will say, well, it's no surprise, terrible taste in his mouth from OKC. Things just didn't work out. But if he stays with Westbrook having one more year on his contract, I believe I've said it before, it'll be a 2-year deal, player option in the second year. And I think, Darnell, you've alluded to that as well as being a very viable option because, I mean, if they can bring this whole team back, they can give it another serious run. And with the experience, I think they may be able to pull through next year if they get to this point again. But I think it's going to take a lot of sweet talk from OKC for him to stay.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, just like I said, after something like that, that has to just make you start looking at what your options are. It's kind of hard to look at what just happened and not think the grass may be greener. Yeah. And I mean, he's going to have some really good teams that he'll have as his option. Like, I just wanted to throw it out to you guys. Like, where do you think, where are you leaning he might be thinking?
Well, you already know where I'm thinking, man. So
he's not going to LA.
Okay, we'll see.
Yeah. You know, one talk that's kind of interesting is Boston.
Goodness,
that's kind of,
I always do that.
Well, but I just think it's interesting.
No, I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, dude, we seem to be on the same page a lot. But, you know, I find that very, very interesting because they don't have a lot of high-paying guys. They have a lot of room.
Just him and Isaiah Thomas, that would be...
The thing is, I think Isaiah Thomas is not as explosive of a scorer as Russell Westbrook is, but just as good of a scorer. And I also think that if he can get, you know, a real solid player like a Durant around him, his assist numbers will go up as well. Yeah. So I think he can have, you know, another solid point guard there. And, you know, outside of him and Isaiah Thomas there, it'll be a very similar situation to OKC where they just have a bunch of role-playing guys that just get in there and make something out of nothing, really. You know, they have like Amir Johnson, and they have, you know, Kelly Olynyk, and they have Avery Bradley.
Marcus Smart.
Yeah, Marcus Smart, Avery Bradley, right?
Yeah, Avery Bradley. Not Avery Johnson.
Yeah, Avery Bradley. So I mean, no, I said Amir Johnson.
Oh, Amir Johnson.
Yeah, Amir Johnson. Okay. Yeah, so it's one of those things where they have pieces, they just don't really have that one player, and that could be Kevin Durant.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that's a nice fit. I mean, they're a younger team. They have a young, really good, really smart coach. And the biggest plus, they're in the East.
Yeah.
So all you got to think about is Cleveland there, not San Antonio, not Golden State, not if the Lakers do figure something out. The Clippers are still a decent team. Like, I think it's just you put him on there with the season Boston already had, I think that makes them a title contender pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
What about his hometown? See him in Washington?
I don't see him giving as big of a boost as he could. Like, I feel like if he goes eastward, it's Boston, or he stays in the West.
Okay.
Yeah, the only issue I really see with, you know, him going to Washington is the fact that they kind of already have a guy that really loves to shoot the ball in, what's his name? No, shooting guard.
Beal. Bradley.
Yeah, Bradley Beal.
Yeah, Bradley Beal.
You know, he already likes to shoot the ball. Granted, he's hurt a lot, but I feel like if he goes there, he's going to be fighting a little more for his shots than if he was going to Boston. Granted, John Wall likes to score his points too, but I just feel like if he were to go to Boston, the offense would be more likely to run through him, as opposed to going to Washington, where I think that's always going to run through Wall. And I just feel like they utilize a different kind of style than Kevin Durant likes to play. Because Kevin Durant likes to get the ball at the top, work for that mid-range jumper that he is very solid with. And I just feel that that's not what Washington does. You know, getting to watch them a few times a year play, you know, Detroit, or if they're on ESPN or TNT or whatever, you know, I just feel like they like to work the ball down low to Gortat, and they like to just kind of see what John Wall can do. I mean, I don't really know that it's much of an offense, but I just feel like Kevin Durant needs the ability for an offense to run through him and, you know, kind of get his shots when he wants them. And I don't know that he'd be able to get that in Washington.
Yeah. Any thoughts on KD and possibly going somewhere?
I think it's bye-bye OKC.
Wow, so you actually don't think he's going to be back in OKC?
I just think, like I said, just a combination of that meltdown and the teams that are gonna actually be talking to him. I mean, I don't think it's like he's gonna be hearing from San Antonio. He's gonna be hearing from Golden State. He is gonna hear from LA, though I don't think they're realistic. He's gonna hear from Washington. I don't think they're a good fit, and he's probably gonna hear from Boston. I just think with those options, it's going to be he's going to be looking at his options there. If I can go to what's possibly a back-to-back champion, or I can go back to a team that was this close. Yeah, we beat them, but if I'm on their team, we're definitely going and I got more firepower. Or I go out to the East where I don't have to work as hard to get to the finals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm just going to be curious to see how much he's going to be talking to Russell Westbrook about this decision. I think Oklahoma City would love to keep him. He's kind of been with them through it all. So for him to stay there would be really nice for Oklahoma City as an organization, the fans, all that. So, I mean, it's going to be a decision of, can Russell Westbrook really sell him on one more year? Can Billy Donovan sell him on one more year? I don't know that that's going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if he stays for a 2-year, kind of like I said, but I also won't be surprised if he leaves. So I'm not leaning one way or the other just yet. I think it'll be interesting to kind of maybe hear some of the rumors of some of the deals that are being offered before I kind of start leaning one way or the other. But as of now, I'm still pretty 50-50.
All right. Okay, so we're about to get to the finals next. Before we get right there, I just want to share with you guys the schedule that's listening. So if you want to check it out, or if you're working a night shift and you want to call in sick, you'll be able to do that. So game 1, that's on the 2nd. Game 2, that's the 5th. Game 3, that's the 8th. 4 is the 10th. And if necessary, is game 5, that's June 13th. We got game 6 on the 16th and game 7 on the 19th. But what do you guys' thoughts on these finals? Think they'll be as good as last year?
I do. I think people need to keep their TV watching schedule open all the way out to the 19th.
All right.
Yeah, I actually think it's going to be a little bit better than last year because there's no excuse for Cleveland this time.
Yeah, they got a full roster now. They're not missing their 2/3 of the big three. So it's put up or shut up time. I mean, it's a lot of pressure on both teams, more on Cleveland, I think, just because now this is LeBron's second chance at bringing that title home to Believeland, as they call it now. And
he could be 2-5 in the finals if he loses.
Yeah, and so that'll be a big blow to his legacy there. I mean, he's been there. This is his 6th straight year in the finals.
Yeah.
I mean, amazing feat for an individual player, but yeah, like we said, he's only got 2 titles out of all of these trips. So it's kind of put up or shut up time where, if he loses this, his teammates might start thinking maybe I need to go somewhere else because this is a guy that can't do it by himself. If he's the alpha of the team, basically, he might be the best player on any team he goes on, but is it just turned into that spot where he can't lead?
No, they've been, well, Ty, you got anything to say?
No, you can move it.
Now the Cavs, they've been blowing through teams like crazy, getting crazy amount of rest for the next round and whatnot. Do you think too much rest can hurt them?
I believe it can. I mean, just like when we talk about fights, I mean, ring rust is real, and I think court rust is real too. If you don't have consistent basketball rhythm, like real in-game rhythm going, I think that can be an issue. Like a sluggish start can be detrimental in a final series.
Yeah, I definitely agree. The key thing would be for the Cavs, with a week off, especially be careful with your conditioning. This is a week running up and down that court that could play a little, have a little effect on your heart, and you're being able to keep up with a team like Golden State. So probably during the time off, wouldn't expect them to go crazy, but probably get your heart rate up a little bit so you can get ready for the pace and action of this team. But be nice too. They probably definitely have some like little walkthroughs and everything, but nothing really major to keep their heart rate going. But with a team like Golden State, they definitely, especially their condition and everything, has to be in check when they play a team like that. So definitely, yeah, I definitely believe with the whole ring rust situation, definitely believe that can happen in basketball too. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I think another advantage that it kind of gave Cleveland was it gave them the ability to kind of just sit back and really watch that other series stress free. They got to watch, a good series, but they also got to really sit there and evaluate games 6 and 7, not worrying about who they're going to play or worrying about another game with Toronto. They just kind of got to sit there and watch Golden State and really, it's film time. That's what it is. I mean, granted, at this point, the teams know each other. They know what each other is going to do. They know, there's really going to be no surprises, I think, in this series in terms of what each team's going to come out and try to do. But, I think just the ability to, continuing to have eyes on the other teams a benefit. I don't think Golden State was sitting there coming back from 3-1 going, all right, what's Cleveland doing? So I think that, that is one benefit to the rest. Also just kind of healing up some small injuries. That's always a good thing late in the year. But, like you guys are saying, just there's a thing about being in momentum, being in a rhythm that can easily get thrown off, with a couple of extra days. But, I think Cleveland's going to be all right. They might come out a little sluggish game 1. I believe they're on the road as well. It was game 1 in Golden State.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I think, coming off of a little bit of an extended rest, being on the road, they might come out a little sluggish game 1, but I bet they find it pretty quick.
All right. Now, what are the key matchups that you guys are looking for in this game? For me, I'm just looking at pretty much the guys from last year, Iggy, to see what he can do, if he could bring the defense that he brought last year to the table, and see what Tristan Thompson can do, because he's probably not going to be starting, but he definitely played well last year as well. So hopefully if he could bring it off the bench for the Cavs, I think those two can play a major role in the success of either team with whoever wins.
Yeah, I can agree with that one. Iggy's definitely going to be a big factor. He gave LeBron a lot of trouble last year. But other than that, I think Draymond and Kevin Love is going to be an interesting one. I brought it up earlier. I think Kevin Love's going to be a big key for the Cavaliers no matter what. If he's not playing well, they're going to struggle. They need to get what they got out of him at the end of their last series against Toronto. If he's not scoring, it's going to be trouble. And then otherwise, I want to see the back and forth between the MVP and Kyrie.
Yeah.
I just
two guys with possibly the best handles in the game. Those two clashing at it. So
yeah, I'm just wondering, will it get to a point where Kyrie feels he needs to try to match Steph Curry? Which, of course, beyond the arc he can't. But is it going to be one of those cases where you get me, I got to get you back? Where I think Irvin is susceptible to that, where he can throw Cleveland out of rhythm.
Yeah, you mentioned 2 players from each team, but I'm going to go ahead and kind of say the big 3 for each team, and for Golden State, that being obviously the Splash Brothers, and then I'll go ahead and throw Draymond in that as Golden State's big 3, and then obviously the big 3 for Cleveland. If I just figure most likely whichever big 3 is going to outscore the other one is most likely going to win the game. When already the 3 for each team are combining for the majority of their points anyway, I think, it's going to be really interesting to see which set of 3 is going to want it more. Both do it in different ways, but, I think, just the ability for each 3 to get it in the bucket consistently on almost every trip down is going to be very key. I think another interesting matchup is going to be Kerr versus Lou. I think we have 2, in my opinion, very average coaches that, LeBron's practically the coach in Cleveland. And, I think Steve Kerr has a little bit better of a handle on the coaching idea, but I don't necessarily think he's a great coach by any means. He just has a great team and inherited it. So I think it's going to be interesting to see, whether it's bringing someone off the bench or trying to implement some new plan or something like that. A coach can win a game for a team and he can lose a game for a team. Yeah. So I think it's going to be interesting to see which coach is going to kind of have a better control on the series, a better control on their team, and either make a good decision or make a bad decision that could potentially cost their team.
This will be interesting, especially for Lou, because looking at him, he hasn't even coached a whole year yet. Yeah. So if they finally find themselves down by a lot of points, it will be interesting to see if the team would gather around him or would they gather around LeBron? Because LeBron, he's been to the finals before. So this would just be interesting to see, especially how Tyronn Lue would handle a situation like that. So that could be very interesting.
Yeah, and I will say, though, I do believe that Lue has more respect than Blatt ever had from this team.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go ahead and say that. So he already has that going for him. But like I said, it'll just be very, very interesting to see what will happen because I believe that LeBron's kind of like everything for that organization right now. And, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's going to be interesting to see in a moment of, Golden State success. Is Cleveland going to answer by listening to the coach, or are they going to listen to LeBron start yapping in the huddle? Who's going to really set the tone for them? During timeouts, during dead balls, during, a Golden State 12-2 run, who's going to set the tone for them when it comes to, all right, what's next? And I think that, it'll be interesting to see whether Tyronn Lue steps in and takes that responsibility, or if he's going to be like, all right, LeBron, it's your team. Do it.
Yeah. Anything else for you guys to add about the key matchups or anything?
I just can't wait to start watching it.
All right. Yeah. Okay, let's get to the nitty gritty. Who do you guys have winning, and how many games? And who do you think will get the MVP?
I think this is a harder decision than we anticipated it being. I think a lot of us wrote off Cleveland 2 months ago. And I think they've really come back and have turned into a really, really strong team. I mean, they breezed their way through the playoffs, and I thought they would struggle with Detroit a little bit. Clearly I was a little wrong there, but I think the easy answer is Golden State in 6 again. I think that's the easy answer. I'm going to go out on a very far limb here and say Cleveland in 7.
Okay.
I'm going to say Cleveland and going the distance, winning it at Golden State. Kind of a little bit of payback for last year.
So then is that a LeBron Finals MVP then?
I would say yes. Granted, I thought he should have won it last year, and I think everybody thought he should have won it last year. I mean, he was scoring almost 40 points a game.
Yeah.
But whatever.
Me, I'll go next. MVP, I got Steph Curry. I do have Golden State winning it, but I have them winning in 5. The reason why?
Wow. 5.
Yeah, I'm going 5, man. I think they are going to be.
Baseball. At least a lot of baseball for us to watch, Trey.
Yeah, man. I just think Golden State is going to be untouchable at home, and I think they will sneak one out in Cleveland. So I got 5 for Golden State. A lot of people, I think they're going to come out swinging for the fences too. They've been hearing a whole lot. Oh, well, Golden State last year, they won a championship, but look at all the injured teams they had to play. They had to go against an injured LeBron. So one thing you don't want to do is awake a sleeping giant. I think those guys are going to come out firing on all cylinders, and they're going to finish it. So I'm going, may think I'm crazy, but I think Golden State's going to pull it out in 5.
Well, I mean, if that's what happens, you get all the props there. That's big there. He's saying Cleveland only wins 1 game. I mean, I'm going with Golden State too, but I think it's going to be tougher. I'm going Golden State in 7. I think basically back to back 7 games.
Okay.
Yeah. I do think, I think Cleveland's going to be on a mission. LeBron, especially, I see a lot of big games out of him again. So yeah, I go Golden State in 7. I think basically probably the home team wins every game. My finals MVP, I'm going with my fellow Thompson. I'm going Clay.
Oh, Clay.
That's good. Okay. That's good.
Yeah, I think he's going to be that X factor because I think when times get tough, they're going to throw LeBron on Steph to try to keep him calm, which will leave probably Klay Thompson a lot of open looks for himself, especially if he has Kyrie shifting over to him, who's not a good defender by any means. So I think this is his series just to go off and average near 30 a game, and I think he might sneak out with that finals MVP.
Yeah, I think especially you brought up a good point with Clay Darnell because he single-handedly helped Golden State win those games against Oklahoma City when Steph Curry wasn't shooting as well. So he pretty much put the team on his back through a lot of those final 3 games to help keep them right where they needed to be. And when Curry finally got hot, that helped them overcome the situation. So Clay's confidence should be sky high coming into that series. So I think with him especially, he's definitely going to have a shot at it for sure. All right, guys. Anything left to say?
No.
For me, I guess it's kind of funny because last year I wanted Cleveland to lose real bad, and then this year I don't really care who wins, but I find it kind of odd that I'm picking Cleveland this year.
Yeah, I'm shocked
for some reason.
Cleveland, man.
I don't know what it is. For some reason, I'm just thinking it's all those years of mistake on the lake and Cleveland's a joke. That might be over.
Plus, I don't want to see if LeBron wins a championship when next season starts. I don't want to see him in every freaking commercial during break and stuff like that.
But to be fair, if Golden State wins it again, that's just going to be Steph Curry. I mean, you just don't like LeBron, and it's cool. It's cool.
I don't hate the guy or anything. I don't wish him bad or anything, but I'm not a huge fan of him.
And I'll even admit I'm not a huge fan of LeBron either. It's just you have to respect what he's doing and what he's done. And
I had enough of LeBron, not Steph Curry yet.
So okay, here's the thing: if you were alive in the early 90s, mid 90s, do you think you would have been sick of Michael Jordan?
During the early.
Well, okay. If you would have been, more aware of what was going on around you, do you think you would have been tired and sick of Michael Jordan?
Probably so. I mean, I kind of get tired of sick of them now. Like,
hey, you're being consistent.
With all these
like Jordan
to hear. Shoes and stuff coming out, people going crazy over them. So, but
because he wishes Kobe was
whatever, man. My goodness.
He's just hoping to see all the offseason talk be Kevin Durant to LA.
Yeah, man, that's what I'm focused on. Yeah, real quick, KD, man, if you're listening, come to LA, dude. Great son. Chance for you to go over there, help the Lakers rebuild that team, man, and win a championship. We're one of the most established franchises in the history of all sports. Your jersey will look good raised up in that arena, man. So come to LA, dude. You'll enjoy it, man.
All from a guy who's never stepped foot in the state of California.
P.S. DeMar DeRozan works too.
Oh man. All right, guys, that's it.
Yep.
All right. Just again, thank you for all the people that's tuned in. You can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher. I will have the link posted on whichever website you find us. So you can find us on plenty of websites if you want to check us out. So just a huge thank you to the guys again that tuned into the show. Hope you guys been enjoying it.
Yep.
So.
And follow us on Twitter.
Yep.
DKM_cast. Send us an email, dkm@gmail.com. Let us know how we're doing. Give us praise. Give us hate mail. Talk to us.
Yeah, and personally find you guys, where can they do that at?
Yeah, for myself, you can find me on Twitter, T_coin, COIN.
All right.
And you can find me at S_do0228. Get at us.
All right.